I've spent my life chasing ghosts, not the kind that rattle chains in abandoned halls, but the ones that haunt our maps and memories. Phantom places, forgotten worlds, the unreachable corners of our Earth that defy explanation. And among them, none have captivated me more than Sandy Island. You may have never heard of it, and that's part of the problem, because at one point in history, it was there, right between Australia and New Caledonia in the Coral Sea. A black speck on naval charts, a known entity, real, solid, tangible. And then, it wasn't. This is the story of my obsession with that island. The story of how something can exist, be seen, recorded, mapped, and then vanish. Not just from the ocean, but from belief. A place that left behind only whispers, conspiracy theories, and a yawning hole in our understanding of the world. I first stumbled across Sandy Island in the archives of my university's geology department. I was researching maritime anomalies, lost vessels, uncharted reefs, when a peculiar entry from 1979 caught my eye. A chart marked the location of a tiny landmass named Sandy Island. Just a blot, really, about 25 kilometers long. But when I cross-checked that spot on modern satellite images, I found nothing but open sea. At first, I assumed it was a mistake. Cartographic errors aren't rare, especially in older records. But what intrigued me was the consistency. The island had appeared on maps for over a century, marked by French explorers, listed in naval directories, included in digital atlases well into the 21st century. And then, in 2012, everything changed. A team of Australian scientists aboard the RV Southern Surveyor sailed directly through the coordinates of Sandy Island, only to find nothing. No land, no shoal, just deep, unbroken ocean. Their sonar equipment confirmed it. The seafloor lay 1,400 meters below the surface. Whatever had been there, if anything ever was, had vanished. The story exploded. News outlets called it the island that never was. Google removed it from their maps. Encyclopedias quietly updated their entries. But not everyone was content to let it go, least of all me. My initial hypothesis was geological. Islands can vanish. Erosion, seismic activity, sea level rise, all are capable of changing coastlines, even swallowing land whole. Maybe Sandy Island had been a sandbar, a volcanic atoll eroded over time by wind and tide. But the data didn't support it. No seismic records, no volcanic remnants, no evidence of recent collapse. And the area had been heavily studied. Shipping lanes ran close to it. If an island had sunk, someone should have seen it. The next obvious explanation was error, a misreading of clouds perhaps, or floating pumice mistaken for land. Satellite images could be deceived after all. It was plausible, but there was something uncanny about how far the error had spread. Sandy Island had been documented by multiple countries across decades, French whaling maps, British naval charts. Even CIA reconnaissance photos during the Cold War had tagged that patch of water. If it had been a mistake, it had been a very persistent one. I reached out to Professor Helen Torgerson, a marine geographer who had published extensively on phantom islands. She'd sailed the Pacific extensively and had even passed near the supposed site of Sandy Island. "We chart what we're told," she told me. "Early explorers report land, and that claim echoes through the years. But sometimes the echo becomes louder than the original voice." But it wasn't just an echo. I'd found logs from the 1908 SS Hougoumont reporting sighting dark landmass bearing NW uninhabited. Later entries confirmed similar observations, always vague, always just at the edge of visibility. So either multiple captains had imagined the same thing, or something had once been there, something we'd lost. The deeper I went, the stranger things got. There were rumors, old sailor tales that I dug up in dusty maritime libraries. A 19th century French sea captain who reportedly landed on the island and found stone idols carved with spiral eyes. He never returned from his second voyage there, A Tongan oral tradition spoke of a forbidden isle that wanders the waves and devours those who stay too long. These stories weren't academic, they were folklore. But folklore has teeth sometimes. It bites at the edges of reality and dares you to look closer. Online forums were worse, a carnival of conspiracies. Some believed Sandy Island had been a cloaked military base, hidden and later dismantled. Others suggested it was a test by alien beings, an experiment in perception and belief. The most extreme theory claimed the island never disappeared, only shifted, that it now existed slightly out of phase with our dimension, and that certain frequencies or times of day could reveal it. I didn't believe any of it. Not really, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. That was when I made the decision. I had to go there. I chartered a small research vessel, the Orion's Wake, captained by a weathered seafarer named Leo Ngata, a man who didn't ask too many questions as long as the pay was good. We set out from Noumea, New Caledonia, heading west into the Coral Sea. I brought sonar equipment, depth sensors, magnetometers, and 2 weeks' worth of supplies. My goal was to map the coordinates exhaustively, to find any trace that something, anything, had ever existed there. The ocean was still blue as ink and as bottomless. For the first 5 days, our instruments read nothing unusual. The seafloor was featureless, deep, silent. But on the 6th night, something changed. At 3:12 a.m., the sonar lit up. An anomaly, approximately 200 meters long, briefly registered at a depth of only 50 meters before vanishing. Leo and I rushed to the deck. We scanned the horizon. Nothing. No lights, no swell. Just open ocean under a new moon. I recorded the data, tried to analyze it, but the reading didn't make sense. It was there, then it wasn't. The next night, it happened again. A sudden uptick in magnetic interference, an unexplainable swell in water temperature by almost 2 degrees, lasting only 15 minutes. Then the fog rolled in. It was unlike anything I'd seen. Thick, wet, cloying. It rolled across the sea like spilled milk, obscuring stars and horizon alike. The GPS cut out. The compass spun wildly. We were adrift in the truest sense. And then, through the mist, I saw it. A shape, dark, angular, rising from the waves like the spine of something ancient and long asleep. I shouted for Leo, but he was already staring. His voice trembled. That shouldn't be there. We approached slowly. The outline became clearer. Black rock, sharp ridges, flat-topped, the remnants of a reef, or something more. But before we could get closer, it was gone. Vanished into the fog like a mirage. When we returned to port, I submitted our logs to several geological institutions. None responded. The sonar data was inconclusive. The magnetic readings were dismissed as equipment malfunction. The fog, a natural weather pattern, but I knew what I'd seen. And Leo, he refused to speak of it, said he wouldn't sail that stretch of water again. To this day, I don't know what we encountered. A submerged volcanic remnant? An illusion crafted by light and mind? Or had we really brushed the hem of something impossible? The scientific community remains cautious. The most accepted explanation is cartographic error, perhaps compounded by early satellite misreads. A sandbar here, a floating raft of pumice there, enough to fool the eye, and history along with it. But that doesn't explain the persistent sightings over centuries. It doesn't explain what we saw or what the equipment recorded. The truth is, some mysteries don't have easy answers. Sandy Island taught me something I never learned in classrooms or textbooks. The world is far stranger, far vaster than we admit. We like to believe that Earth is known, measured, conquered. But every once in a while, something peeks out from the deep and reminds us we are still explorers, still blind in many ways, still vulnerable to the great unknown. The island may never have existed, or it may have existed and died, or And this is the thought that wakes me some nights. It may still be out there, waiting for the right moment or the right mind to be seen again. So I ask you, as you sit there listening to my voice through this screen, what do you believe? Do you think an island can disappear? Or are there things out there, lurking at the edges of our perception, that choose when and to whom they reveal themselves? Next time you gaze at a map, remember, not everything on it is real, and not everything real is on it. If you've had a strange experience near the Coral Sea, or have heard stories passed down about disappearing islands, leave a comment below. I want to hear your theories, and if this mystery has intrigued you, consider subscribing, because there are more stories like this, more ghosts in the geography, more truths just beneath the surface. We live on a planet of secrets. Let's